I think we got to start with the fact that you're raising your guidance for the year. Tell us about why J&J is in a position to do this.
Good morning, Meg. It's nice to be here with you today. We looked at the second quarter, and we had strong performance again from our pharmaceutical unit. We did see a little bit of slowdown in terms of physician-administered drugs, but the portfolio overall remains well. Consumer, we have the same expectations that we had in the beginning of the year. Tylenol, Listerine continues to perform extremely well, and we had a very strong first quarter. And it's really in medical devices where we're able to raise our guidance. So we had fears in late March, early April that business could be down 40 to 60% in the second quarter. It came in closer to 30 to 35%. So that's really the reason for what I would say is guarded optimism.
Right. It's a special circumstance when a 33% decline actually beats expectations.
That's for sure.
In the medical device unit. I want to ask you about your modeling of the pandemic. Last quarter, you guys were using the IHME model, citing a potential peak in the United States in April. Of course, we did see a peak in April, but now we've way surpassed that here in July. What does your modeling of the pandemic look like now?
Yeah, so right now we're going in and looking at individual hospital accounts, getting a lot of intelligence, both quantitative and qualitative, with respect to discussions that Alex Gorsley, Ashley McAvoy, and other medical device leaders have had with hospital administrators, their preparedness to handle the pandemic, their preparedness for any spikes that may occur, and in many cases, they did not see an impact, so we also have really good intelligence there. So we're looking at it on an account-by-account basis, not just here in the U.S., but across the globe.
I see. And are you even trying to model any more using these models? And last time you cited, guidance from experts like Dr. Fauci. I mean, at this point, the models are pretty much broken based on where they were a few months ago. How are you guys looking at it?
Yeah, so we're looking at the same type of intel using epidemiology data to determine not only how it's going to impact our business in terms of top-line revenue, but to where to plan for our vaccine studies as well.
Well, I want to ask you about those vaccine studies.
Sure.
What's the current status when you plan to get into humans?
So we've made a lot of progress since we announced our lead candidate on March 30th. Very shortly here, in the next few weeks, we'll have results from our preclinical data that will be published in a prestigious scientific journal. But we have enough conviction and confidence in that data that we'll be entering phase 1 human trials next week. It's going to be more than 1,000-person study. It's going to include ages 18 to 55, but also 65 and older. So we're going to try to target that most vulnerable population. It's going to be far-reaching in terms of the demographic makeup. And we are very optimistic that will yield good results with respect to safety and tolerability. We're also in discussions with the NIH to possibly move up the phase 3 portion of our clinical development program to late September. So that will measure clearly the effectiveness of the vaccine. So things continue to progress very nicely, and Dr. Paul Stoffels and his team have really exceeded every timeline that we set out in the beginning of this.
Becky?
Hey, Joe, if you are able to move up the phase 3, what would that mean? If you move up the phase 3 to September, what would that mean in terms of production? Would you be able to produce one this year? Are we still talking next year?
Yeah, so good morning, Becky. This is still going to depend on making sure that we prove this out scientifically, right? We want to make sure that it's not only effective, but it's safe and tolerable. Because we're using a platform where we've implemented vaccines for approval that we just received last week in the EU for Ebola, but HIV, Zika, we have very good confidence that it's going to be safe and tolerable. The science still has to play out. I still think you could get maybe a readout from that data at the end of this year, but I think the responsible answer is probably the beginning of next year. In terms of manufacturing capabilities, we have 2 bioreactors in our Leiden, Netherlands facility. We've added to that capacity, and we've also signed some definitive agreements with contract manufacturers here in the U.S. So we'll be able to supply at a run rate of probably better than 1 billion vaccines by the end of next year, but we'll have hundreds of millions as we continue to make strides in being ready for that manufacturing production.